What's up, everybody? This is Reuben here. Another episode, daily episode of the Reuben Show, right? So this is going to be, yesterday I talked about all the cowboy stuff that I got into, and that was a good time. But today I'm going to talk strictly about trucking. And there's a couple observations I had, and again, I've been talking to my friends. We have all these conversations ad nauseum. And so this thing so there's two things, right? So number one, when you look at these trucks, the diesel trucks, the electric trucks, all the new technology that's coming out, you're going to have different players in the game, right? So you have two distinct type of players in the game. Number one, you have the little guy. You have the little guy, and a good example of the little guy is our friend Chase Barber of Edison Motors out in Canada, and he's doing it small, right? He has a great idea for an electric vocational truck, and he's making it. He's built it. He's got it running. He did a demonstration, and he put it on YouTube and everything, where he pulled 100,000 pounds. He was 100,000 pound gross, and he pulled it like it was nothing. So it's like proof of concept. We already kind of believed him, and so it wasn't an issue of whether it could be done. But he's progressing rather fast, right? For being a small guy. Then you have the big companies like the Tesla, where they just throw money at it. They make predictions, and they say we're going to be able to outpull and outdo this, and they make these bold predictions. But also too, companies like Freightliner, like Daimler Chrysler, like Volvo, they have tons of money that they are pumping into what they're doing, right? They're pumping all this money into it. And so there are crazy philosophies when it comes to it, right? So you have the little guy has to be a little bit more methodical. They have to be more calculated, but they still, it's almost like you're taking a different kind of risk, right? Where the risk you're taking, let me square this up here. The risk you're taking is something where you have to take them, right? Because you're not going to be able to make these completely new type of vehicles with zero risk involved. So that's not something that's even feasible, right? So you got to take risk. And so do big companies, right? They just take risks that cost more and more and more money. That's what they do. So the two philosophies is be very calculated, think about what you're doing, and then just, make some decisions, try to move the needle forward every single time, right? And you just keep going forward, right? You keep going forward and you get to a point where you can build something, right? So here's another kind of thing that's kind of interesting when you look at the aspect of what I'm talking about here. So the idea that the little guy is coming out with a new vehicle, and then a bigger guy like Tesla, General Motors, for whatever these big companies, they just dump a bunch of money into it. So here's a thing. And then you have these people like, and another example is like Tesla with their SpaceX, with Elon Musk and their SpaceX thing, where they have the philosophy where they make these rockets cheap and fast, and they test them over and over again so they could get good data on them, right? And so there's that kind of component of the whole thing. But in the world of trucking, the electric semi is completely new. It's a completely new kind of concept. It's a new thing that's coming out where, you have all the infrastructure that needs to be built out. You have to have training. You have to have mechanics that have to know how to fix these $200,000-$300,000 vehicles that are going to have a whole nother set of rules. Now, there's general idea, like electric vehicles have been in mass production now, maybe about 10 years. Everybody's gotten used to this idea that that's what they are, right? They kind of understand the components, because if you look on the internet, you can see people breaking them down. You can see people taking them apart, actually manipulating them, fixing them, doing different things to them. So now you're starting to see people dive into it. It's not so complicated, right? It's not such a mystery, because it was a new thing that has come out. And so then you have that, right? So in the world of trucking, you have, Edison Motors, which is a small guy. He's made one or two trucks. He's getting orders. He's building what he's doing. And he's got to make good decisions, right? You got to make really good decisions. You got to be tight with the budget. You got to put yourself in that position where you don't want to make a catastrophic failure move, right? You don't want to have those moves. And so in the world of these big guys, they can make those moves, and they can make those mistakes rather, and they do all the time, right? They make those mistakes. Oh, we thought this was going to work out, and it didn't. There's a bunch of even auto manufacturers where they make these moves and electrification is just one example, right? You can copy and paste what I'm talking about to everything. The design of a new transmission, a new technology, a new software, a new engine, a new fuel. You go down the list. So the electrification of the truck is not, I'm not picking on them per se, but this is just one example that we can all see, because we see this happening in front of our eyes, right? You see this happening right in front of us, and it's like a new frontier of like, who's going to make the infrastructure, right? Who's going to get, are we going to rely on the government to pay for this, or are we going to, is it going to be self-funded, right? That's kind of the biggest question when we look at all these kind of topics. You say, how are we going to build out this infrastructure? Because ultimately, electrification of trucks, if it does happen, it's going to help all the people because everybody receives goods and services. There's no doubt that that's kind of what we're looking at here, right? Because, that's my gripe with toll roads, but that's for another video. We could talk about that, about how I think the idea of a toll road is completely nonsensical because who doesn't? Everybody receives goods and services that go through that road. So why does one person have to pay to maintain that road when everybody partakes in the fruits of labor of traveling through those roads that are built? It's kind of farcical. I mean, but anyways, so then when you look at, the big guys versus little guys, their philosophy, ultimately you want to get to a place where you're going to crack a bunch of eggs and you want to have an ultimate design that works and is effective, right? Recently, in you look at diesel trucks, is the advent of the automatic transmission or automated transmission or transmission that switch. You can play all the games you want on the wording of it. You can goof around on the wording of it, but it's all the same thing. Automatic transmission, right? Where it switches gears on its own. It's way more efficient. Now, this current 2023, this generation of transmissions is a lot better than, say, 10 or 12 years ago. They've cracked a lot of eggs, but you have to go through those growing pains, right? Because efficiency in the world of logistics is probably the most important buzzword that we can talk about. Fuel efficiency, time efficiency, get the most out of every load, right? If you can haul 48,000, can you haul 50? That means that if over the course of 10 or 20 loads, and if you're a big warehouse and you send out 20 loads a day, or let's say there's some of these warehouses do like 100 loads a day. I've been to steel mills where they do 140 loads a day. So if you can add 1,000 pounds of steel on every single truck, that's 140,000 pounds. That's equivalent to 3 truckloads. 3 truckloads is the equivalent to it, right? So that's kind of the interesting dynamic of like what we're looking at here. And everybody says, well, yeah, it doesn't matter, this and that. Well, ultimately, there's another component to this, the driver side. But we're specifically talking about, and I'm gonna connect the dots to this story to another story that pertains to the drivers, right? That's going to pertain to the drivers. I'm not going to lie, the live feed is a little distracting. I'm going to keep going here going forward, but this is the first time I'm doing this where I'm simulcasting. I'm recording the podcast and I'm putting it on, and I'm probably going to do this one, then go on Facebook Live, and then go on Instagram Live, all the lives. Maybe I'll even go on YouTube Live, but I won't save this live version. This will just be, you can check in now, and I'm still going to post everything. This is recording on my regular Canon camera. So anyways, getting back to this idea of like the big guy versus little guy in developing new technology and how they go about doing it. It's fundamentally different, but the end road is you got to get a product that people actually buy, right? So cracking all the eggs, you can only crack maybe a dozen eggs with the little guy, but the big guy's, he's cracking a dozen eggs a day, right? So you're making all these mistakes. You're going down these avenues that lead to nothing, that don't lead to any kind of useful ending to it, right? So it's like a while back, a long time ago, people were thinking that what was the road was going to be for automatic transmissions. They thought it was never going to get figured out. They're never going to be able to make it work. It wasn't going to be more efficient. It was going to be just a little, but its magnitude, it's crazy more efficient, right? Less wear and tear and everything. But that also comes with a set of other challenges, because now you have this other complicated machine in your truck that if it was just a regular standard transmission, there's a lot less components, right? Servos and all, you go down the list. I don't know the details of it, but it's obvious that an automatic transmission or an automated transmission or a transmission that shifts gears automatically, again, people play on those words like crazy, and it's funny because it means all the same thing. It means all the same thing. So that posed its own issues. In the end, nothing is perfect per se, right? You can always squeeze more, right? And they've been doing this in the trucking industry ever since the trucking industry started, with the design of the wheels, with all this. And so the big guys, they throw stuff, some stuff sticks, most stuff doesn't, by the way. So then on a little guy, so you have the little guy's mindset of it. That little guy, everything has to stick, because you're not throwing 100 things, you're not throwing 100 darts, right? You're not throwing 100 darts. Nobody can go live. Sorry. Nobody can throw 100 darts and they all stick. But the little guy has to throw 5 darts, and he has to hope that three hit, right? So there's that. We're playing a ratio game. We're playing like, oh, this is, this works, this doesn't work. So I thought that was very interesting in the way that, you can see the way, as an example, Chase Barber is approaching the way that he's building his Edison truck, the one, I think it's Toppy or Topper, and you build that truck out, and then you put yourself in the position where you're starting to have successes, right? And then so again, he's doing great. It's amazing, and I think he's really onto something. This idea of having a diesel generator and then have that power the electric motors, so that way you theoretically never run out of juice, and then you have the regenerative braking and so forth and so on. And so I think he's onto something. I think there's a quality product there. It's just going to take a lot more time to come to fruition. Although he has been working very fast. He's been working. I don't know why I said that word so much, but he's been moving at a fast pace. But then to juxtapose the bigger guy, they can throw money at it, but they are a little bit slower too. So there's the drawback to everything, right? You're so big and you're so robust that you don't have, 18 people have to approve a budget. Chase Barber approves his budget, and I'm sure as he gets bigger, it'll be the same thing. But now everybody's got to put their hands or their opinion or their 2 cents on what should be done with whatever money is generated from your vehicle, for whatever it is, right? And so we're seeing that in the world of trucking. We're seeing that develop because, ever since the announcement of the Tesla electric semi-truck, you have companies are now scrambling to try to play catch up. Now, Elon Musk is an interesting guy because, like all CEOs, he makes all these claims, but he's very kind of haphazard about his claims, right? Oh, yeah, we're going to make a Tesla truck. We're going to do all this stuff. And he's done this with all his vehicles, by the way, right? So this is a pattern that he has now. Everybody used to freak out. The stock price used to go crazy, and everybody's like, he needs to be taken out of that role, and he's not doing a great job, and all this other stuff. Now they've seen his pattern where he makes outrageous claims, and basically he gives the task to his people to, like, come up with all the stuff, right? And so that's kind of what he's been doing. And he just released a Cybertruck. That was, 4 years. It was supposed to come out 2-3 years ago, but then, all the other stuff happened in the world. But one of the things too, and so that's the big guy trying to float, right? Because when they hit losses, the losses go insane, right? And so that's, I would want to see, it'd be interesting to hear Chase Barber talk about, what kind of setbacks he has anything happened yet that was potentially going to put him under. Because Elon Musk talked about this when he was building SpaceX out, and he talked about how they were almost was it Tesla? Was Tesla and SpaceX? They were both kind of on the verge of losing everything. He was having setbacks. He was having design issues. He couldn't quite produce when he wanted. And so that, and he came out on top, and now they're wildly successful. Starlink, solar. I mean, it's crazy what he's been able to do, right? In maybe 15 years, right? And so he, so these are all great examples of how when the bigger guy, and then so we can take this to, and I'm gonna transition to the next topic. We could take it to, the driver, the owner operator, the carrier. We can take it to this aspect, right, where if you have a nest egg and if you've been in the business and you have a small group of people that you can rely on in the trucking industry, maybe you could take more chances. Maybe you can say no to freight. But because of the nature of the way trucking is kind of set up, these people that are lease operators, owner operators, they don't have a group, a collective. They really don't do that, right? That's not the way it works. Everybody's kind of on their own. And so they don't have the collective security blanket, right? That's why most trucking, 1 or 2 truck operations just don't make it, because they don't have any say so. They don't have, their leverage is greatly diminished. And you probably have to get up to 50 trucks to start realizing and seeing the leverage, right? That's the thing. Leverage is important in everything, right? Especially in business negotiation, in what you can and can't do, and is your company indispensable? Or you're indispensable. Everybody knows we're all replaceable. We've all heard that before, right? And so you see that, and the truckers too, because they don't have buying power parts. You can't say, well, I'll buy 50 batteries, I'll buy 60 batteries, I'll buy 70 batteries, I'll buy all this other stuff, right? You don't hear all that kind of stuff because they can't afford it. They have no need for it. It's a one or two truck operation. It really doesn't have a lot, right? You can't really buy a lot, so you don't have any buying power, because that's a thing. Buying power is a thing, and that's leveraged all the time by the big mega carrier trucking companies. It's what it is, right? It's leveraged by them ad nauseum, whether it's buying tires, oil changes, service. The service industry is crazy with this, right? Where you have, and again, this is the juxtaposition of the little guy versus the big guy. So you have this everywhere. It is literally everywhere. And so, one of the things that I wanted to bring up, right? And so and this is, I think are we at the halfway mark? We're almost at the halfway mark. But anyways, and I only make these 30 minutes because I could literally talk for hours and hours and hours, but we'll do a show every day. So there's always topics every day to talk about. But anyways, and this topic grew from the first episode. And so, it's all going to snowball on top of each other, right? And so again, whatever your comments are, whatever information you have, whatever you find interesting, and you share it, and it's something that we could talk about, let's talk about it, right? This is the world of trucking. I talk about trucking, sports, and life, whatever. So there's no restriction on what I can talk about. And eventually, I will talk about politics, but that's going to be for another day. We'll talk about how I'm going to format that and so forth and so on. But anyways, so the last thing I want to talk about, I thought this was interesting, right, is this idea that small trucking companies, the feeling of that you're an individual is what makes people gravitate towards the smaller outfit, right? 15, 20 trucks. Everybody knows your name. Hey, what's up, Bob? What's up, Lucy? What's up, Eric? You know people in the office, right? You feel like a human being, right? So the question is this, right? With the advent of AI and the fact that AI can almost have regular conversations and it can hear what you're saying and respond accordingly, it's really good at picking up on what your question really is. I mean, so the AI system, there's two functions to this, right? This is how it's going to benefit the little guy. Number one, maybe if you subscribe to the service, maybe you can have AI help you do all the things that stop you from interacting with your drivers and your customers. Whether it's payroll billing or whether it's, certain details of the aspect of trucking, a little guy can employ an AI service that is almost like an AI accountant that would help you out, so that there's certain things that you're not necessarily required to do, but you had to use that time. And that's not time developing relationship with your drivers, hiring people, weeding those people out. So in other words, there's only so much time that a regular person has, only so much time. And of course, that stuff is going on in the background. We're just going to keep going though, right? So there's that aspect of it, right? And so you get a more customized service with the little guy, and if you employ the AI to maybe take phone calls and could really give you good information, right? I don't know why they're cutting grass right now, but it's all good. And so, anyways, one of the aspects of the AI, and you start making these phone calls. If you've got into a chatbot thing, you can hear the way that these AI chatbots respond now. It's almost with conversational English. It's almost like with, it understands what you're asking. Like, it's weird the way that it can respond now, right? So you can leverage that where you can be a little guy and be effective. Right? Now, here's the flip side to the whole deal. Here's the flip side to the deal, and this is where I think it's going to get wonky and weird, is when AI is utilized by the bigger guys, by the bigger companies, they're going to be able to ingest your information and it doesn't get lost. It gets captured correctly. I was talking to somebody about a story where they were calling their dispatch of a rather large company, and that information was not being given. They were doing something and doing the correct thing, but it was not getting relayed or recorded or captured. So now you're wasting time, right? So now the office is ingesting all this stuff and they're not being able to kind of deal with all this stuff correctly. Now, will the AI assistants in the bigger corporations, will they be able to capture all that mundane data and be able to dish it out and have people address it? Because that story about somebody making a phone call to a big company and saying, well, this is what I need to do and I want to do this and that, the driver was being proactive, but it turns out that information was never, when that person gave that instruction to the first person in the office, they did not take good notes. They didn't write accurate information so that the follow-up can happen. They didn't do that, right? So the question is, does AI solve this problem? And that's the big guy and the little guy. Will the big guy leave? Will the AI, see, there you go. Will the AI make the playing field better or worse for the little guy? Would have even a greater advantage for the big guy, because we know that the bigger companies are going to invest and throw money at being able to create systems that allow the AI to be able to accurately catch more information, right? The same way that they're using AI to decipher things, right? What did it say? I think it's going to outsmart humans. Yeah, I can see that too. I think there's going to be a component to that, right? But I think eventually we're going to have a situation where there's going to be limits on it, and you're going to have all that. But and specifically for trucking, is it going to make a trucking company better, right? And when I mean better, let's be honest, more profit. Because anytime information is not disseminated the correct way, right? So if you make a phone call and you call your company, you say, hey, just to let you know, the next shift, this trailer was not inspected correctly, right? It was not correct, not inspected correctly. And then that person is getting off. They're supposed to put in the notes, tag that trailer in the computer system, confirm your appointment time, right? All these kind of little things that reduce efficiency in the world of trucking, and that equals less money, right? So then with these AI assistants being able to listen to everything you said and be able to capture the data correctly and dish it out. See, that's what's going to change the game, right? What did you say here? Technology should help if you use, yeah. So that's the question, right? Technology will be, AI will be integrated into the logistics industry. 100%. It's going to be integrated into it, and it's going to become part of it. Are the little guys, which don't have R&D, they don't have money to just throw at it, they're not going to be able to play on that playing field, right? Once those AI assistants in the big mega carriers are going to be able to leverage this idea where they can take, you can have it take all the service calls, right? I was talking to somebody where they were talking about the service. When you go to a dealership and a mechanic shop, you have to go through some people, right? So if you go to the dealership and you're like, hey, my 2005 Ford Explorer is busted up. And the service writer's like, oh, we're about to make all this money on this person. They're going to write it all up, blah, 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 do all this stuff, right? And so you have that convoluted situation. And then you have that information that needs to be relayed to the mechanic or in the shop that's going to actually do all the work. And then they have to communicate with the warranty system, right? So that level of communication, if that's eliminated through the AI system, is it going to mean that you have a cost of ownership that's going to be lower because the diagnosed mistakes with the vehicle are going to be more accurate? I don't know why they didn't cut grass for a whole week and now they're cutting grass. So anyways, and so I wonder if that's going to be, okay, let's see here. Technology. Yeah. So I wonder if that's going to be, I think that's going to be more impactful than the electrification of trucks. I think that's what we're seeing, and I don't think anybody's talking about this. I thought about this idea. I don't see anybody talking about it. All the regular talking heads on Trucker Talk, no, they just talk about news, right? Reactionary. I'm thinking about our industry going forward, right? And that's the idea behind it, right? Have some foresight, have some thought into what could we expect in the future? And we know that AI is a very powerful tool. I mean, some of these chat bots, they have conversational, they have great conversations. I mean, it's starting to get insane of how they've taught these computers of how to communicate. You've gone from the digital age where, your standard Google search where you can type in 100 different ways to look for the same thing and you'll get 50 different results. You can now speak these questions and it'll start digging, and it's amazing what we've been able to see it doing just in the last 3 years, right? If things have exploded in terms of their ability to kind of decipher things and put things together. So that's kind of where are we at here? 25 minutes. We're almost there. But anyways, so I like that idea of asking that question, will the AI assistance be effective for the little guy too? And who's going to come out with that service? Who's going to come out with that technology? Because you're going to have the big guys pay tech companies to make personalized, unique AI bots that service the trucking industry. It already exists, folks. It's already here. So when the little guy doesn't have that service, if you have 5 trucks, again, you can pay that service and it can handle basic phone calls, basic knowledge. I mean, it's starting to get really good about delegating. I remember a couple years back, there were these virtual assistants where they could take phone calls, and everybody's like, "That's never going to work. That's never going to work." Well, it's here. They've figured it out. They've upped the ante on the what did you say? They're already affiliated. Yeah, exactly. I don't know, and I said I wasn't going to respond to questions, but I don't know. It's right in front of my face. It's like I'm like a chipmunk. I can't stop looking. Okay, so who cares, right? We're running the podcast here. Like I said, the TikTok, this is going to get erased, but I'm going to post this video. This will be the video and the audio. That's why I have the mic. The mic is not connected to the cell phone. It's connected to a sound box and my camera and everything. I'm going to merge all that way. So anyways. So that's what I thought was interesting about this podcast. I wanted to go just dive in trucking, and those two subjects are kind of married together. They kind of show parallels, but the little guy in building new physical equipment, but then all the technology wise, because technology has helped, right? Efficiency has helped, and if anybody says old school, new school, whatever it is, if you tell me that that's not something that's important, your cell phone is a great example of how everybody has adopted this technology and they have utilized it, and we're way more efficient for it. Google Maps, all these other efficiencies, right? It's almost eliminated the need for a CB radio. Everybody says, we're never going to get rid of it. It's happened. That's why it's happened, right? So anyways, what are your thoughts on this? Any of the videos that I post on all the platforms, like I said, this is going to be on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. It's going to be on YouTube, whatever you prefer. I can't post a long form podcast on TikTok because there's just not the format that is. That's why I went live right here. And I'm probably going to do live on Instagram too, and YouTube. And so anyways, it's all on the platform, YouTube, Facebook, and it will be on X pretty soon here. And so anyways, because I had to do something with my account and get it all situated and fixed. But anyways, that's kind of like my rant with this. So this was an all trucking podcast today. There'll be one tomorrow. We're going to post one every single day. Give me your thoughts. I want to hear about it. I look at the comments. I respond to the comments. I don't have an assistant. This is a one-man show. And because of technology, I've been able to figure all this stuff out. So I'm able to post all this stuff rather efficiently, and my workflow has gotten a lot faster. So this is an example of the technology, right? This would have took a whole crew to film this and edit it and put it together in the audio and everything. And now this is just me doing it. So anyways, if you like the video, like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. I hate doing that, but that's what they call the call to action. You have to do it. You have to say it because it's goofy and silly, but that's the way it be. So anyways, thanks for watching. Talk to you guys later.